Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Arie Scherson podcast. In today's episode, I have a treat for you. I brought my friend Ahmed, who is a print-on-demand e-commerce entrepreneur who's done over $55 million and has now started to build an entire ecosystem around print-on-demand, from building his own manufacturing facilities to creating his own brands to helping other brands and supplying them. It's a really incredible story, and it all started with just a simple dropshipping product way back in 2016. So this is going to be extremely inspiring for those of you that are trying to start your own e-commerce business on Shopify. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel, drop a quick like, listen to this on your own time, take your time with it, take some notes, and then drop a comment if you enjoy it. And without further ado, here's the interview with Ahmed Al-Sayeed. Welcome, Ahmed. I'm really happy to have you here, man. So there's a lot to talk about. You're a beast in e-com. I've actually, you said some things about me, but I've been seeing you around as well. I've seen some of your ads. I've seen some of your brands, and I'm like, man,
Sweet.
this guy gets it. So I'm super excited to have you on here, talk about some of your journey to 8 figures and beyond, and maybe some of the things that you're thinking about to get to the 9-figure level. That's going to
For
be
sure,
exciting.
man.
So for those that don't know who you are, I briefly mentioned a little bit, but would you mind introducing yourself and giving us like a quick elevator pitch on,
Oh
on
yeah,
who you are?
no doubt, man. So super short, brief intro. So I'm the co-founder of A3 Ventures. I have 2 other partners. We got into e-commerce in like 2015 in a very roundabout way, and we've been, just scaling ever since. Definitely a slow start, but since then, I think we've launched well over 30 websites, man. A lot of failures along the way. A few notable successes, such as canvasfreaks.com, pokepetshop.com, and animifyme.com. We do a lot of personalized gifting, print on demand. That's our area of expertise. That's actually where we started in 2015 and
Wow.
kind of where we still are, man. But what's cool is that we accidentally started a manufacturing facility, and that's become a large component of our business, being a print-on-demand manufacturer. And I'm really glad we did, because our reliance on e-commerce isn't as heavy as it is for other players. So
Wow.
that's who I am, and that's what we're up to, man.
Wow. There's so much to unpack from that. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited. Back in 2015, that's a long time ago, almost a decade now. So that's,
Yeah.
you're literally putting in your 10,000 hours. Let me ask you this though. When you began, you said it was print on demand. Were you doing like Printful? Was Printful
Yeah.
even a thing back
It
then?
was, dude, it was so manual at that time. So what we had was Teespring. I'm not sure if you've ever messed with the platform, but one of my co-founders, Atik, he was like my mentor at the time. And so he actually made like $35,000 selling Game of Thrones t-shirts. And that like
Wow.
changed his life, right? So right after that, he was like, okay, there's something here. I need help. And so he had me come on, as well as my best friend. So we would just design t-shirts on Teespring. And of course, like Teespring had their own volume at that time. Like they had their own visitors and things like that. And you were hoping that someone would find your product and it would kind of go viral. At that same exact time that we got on, Facebook marketing became relatively popular. So we started running ads directly to the t-shirt designs that we were making. Teespring would do all the fulfillment, but we would not capture all the revenue. We'd only make whatever the difference was. And that was like 10, $15. But we were
Mm.
getting conversions for like $3 a pop. So it was kind of nice. Yeah.
Wow. Back then, man, must be nice back then to
Yeah.
get $3 conversions on Meta ads, but
No
that's
doubt, man.
super impressive. Did you ever even consider drop shipping other products? Did you ever try that, or always just
Yeah.
like focus on print on demand?
So we actually very quickly got into drop shipping immediately after doing a few t-shirts.
Mm.
The very first course that we took was, I think, a Robert Nava course. And pretty much it was just talking about AliExpress and, the very basic drop shipping model. Everything was super manual at that time. So we were, finding the products that we wanted to test. We would have like a dollar shop type of a store where we'd host everything. Like
Mm.
one good look at it and you knew it was drop shipping. And so we would just test like 10, 15 products every single day, man. We'd play that volume game. Our very first success was actually going back to Game of Thrones. It was a dragon ring. It was like a dragon tooth ring. We sourced it for $1, sold it for like 20, 25. And we scaled that successfully. After that, it was a series of successful drop shipping stores, from a thermal hairbrush
Wow.
to DIY puzzles to like everything under the sun, man. We've sold it. Waist trainers, I mean, you name it, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you basically just ran like a general store model for a
Yeah.
long time. Were you still doing like print on demand as well,
We
or?
stopped. No, we
Oh,
completely stopped. And so from 2015 all the way through the end of 2016, all we did was drop shipping. And it was at the end of 2016 that we actually drop shipped a canvas print, which, we didn't realize we could do via print on demand, right? So we had a supplier in China, and they had pre-made designs that they were like sending out for us. Just like that was when we first launched Canvas Freaks. It was like, I think, September, October of 2016, and it was very successful. Like the very first month, we scaled up to 250,000 in revenue.
wow.
Um, and we were just like shook by it. The margins were insane, and that's when we kind of got back into print on demand after that.
Oh,
It was a full circle, yeah, starting with POD, drop shipping, and then back to POD.
wow. So when you tested that product, that wasn't print on demand at the time. It was just already like a pre-made canvas, basically.
Exactly. It was
Wow.
like pre-made multi-panel canvas prints, and one of the suppliers on AliExpress had it up, and it was like NBA designs. They were like super infringement, things
Yeah.
like that. And so we would just, launch whatever they had in their store, and it worked. And then like something clicked in our minds where, and I'm sure at that time we felt like geniuses, right? We were like, hey, this is like t-shirts, but on canvas. Why can't we do our own designs? So we started like sourcing images from Shutterstock and like other free use sites, and just
Wow.
kind of printing them and scaled that over the years. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. And then that led you over time. I love finding people's journeys and kind of breaking it down,
Yeah.
because it's just so interesting how like this led to that and this leads to that. Because now I
Of
see you,
course.
for example, getting even more creative with the Poke Pet Shop, like doing custom Pokemon cards, basically.
Yeah.
How did that idea come about? That's crazy.
No doubt, man. So we were doing Canvas Freaks for a long time. Around 2018, very quickly we got into manufacturing. And the reason we did that was because our suppliers in China weren't super dependable.
Mm,
I say it was accidental because at no point did it like even click that there are local suppliers that we could have contacted that would have done it from the US for us. We just thought the only other option was for us to make it ourselves. Um,
mm-hmm.
so we started, and that became like a whole thing. And so over the next 2 years, we became a print on demand manufacturing facility. We took on our competitors and things like that. But after 2.5 years into it, man, like by 2020, I just felt like it was a job, right? I
Mm-hmm.
started losing like the flair of entrepreneurship, starting something new. Just then, me and one of my co-founders, Adib, we just said like, screw it, let's stop working on this completely, and let's like build new shops again, like just like how we started. So that's when Poke Pet Shop was born. Obviously Pokemon was like something that was super nostalgic for us.
Right.
We knew print on demand, and we figured out a way to customize people's pets into, Pokemon characters essentially. Um, and we had this network of artists that we worked with from overseas. Yeah, man, figuring out the manufacturing, the operation behind it was insane. But the idea was like born out of love from like our
That's
childhood
amazing.
of just, yeah, being into it.
That's just crazy that you figured out the manufacturing of it. Like, that sounds like a crazy undertaking. Do you think you like, so when it comes to manufacturing, what are some things that you learned about it, and what, like, do you still do manufacturing, right? You still do.
We do. Manufacturing is a big part of our business. For context on our size, we have a 35,000 square foot facility in Orlando.
Wow.
And we are pushing out at peak close to like 1,500 canvas prints a day. And so we have a lot of clients, a lot of like very popular clients that people would know online, that do fulfillment with us. We even work directly with print on demand suppliers like Gelato, if you know them, along with a few others. Like we're trying to build relationships with Printful, Printify. And so like that's kind of what we do. But
Smart.
going back to manufacturing, man, I mean, it's hard, dude. Like, it is one of the hardest undertakings that we've ever done, and I would never recommend someone to get into it, right? But because we did it by accident, it worked out well for us. I mean, it's
Hmm.
something that it's incredible, and we'd never let it go, man. Some of the most difficult aspects of it are obviously employee management. At peak, we have over 100 people in our warehouse, right? November, December. Scaling that up over a short period of time, training those people, man, and making sure that they're not making mistakes, which would result with, very unsatisfied customers. And
Right.
then scaling that back down during the slow season. I mean, those are some of the hardest things to do with manufacturing, man.
I could see that. I mean, that I still am shocked that you manufacture yourself. Like I actually didn't know that exactly. I
Yeah.
thought this was all just like a normal e-com store. You got your
Yeah,
suppliers, like you're the supplier. Like that's
pretty
insane
much.
to me. But I think what's really cool about that is like you said, it's so hard, but that makes it a really good like moat. Like no one's gonna compete with you basically on it because it's so difficult to do. So I mean, that's amazing. Now, are you also utilizing this now to start your own brands? I mean, that's kind of how it happened,
Absolutely.
right?
Right. And so that was kind of like the thought process, right? Like, once we already started manufacturing, we pretty much realized a few years later that, like, okay, we have something incredible here. There's no middleman. We get so much additional, like, ability to spend on advertising and to acquire new customers that, others aren't able to do. So we always continue to build new brands. Like, even in the last few years, we've built multiple brands. And I mean, the thing with e-commerce, the reality is that, the majority of what you launch is going to fail.
Hmm.
And we're okay with that. Like, we're totally okay with that failure. And so we just continue to do so. So right now, there's actually 4 very active brands in our portfolio, which would, again, be Canvas Freaks, Amify Me, PokePet Shop, Driver Dynasty. Those 4 combined are doing 8 figures in e-commerce revenue.
Wow.
And then what the wholesale side, that's like its own thing. And we're, I think this year our goal at least is to top like 7.5 million in fulfillment manufacturing revenue. So we're kind of growing both side by side. The idea is that, for example, one of the products that we make are neon signs. And so everyone else that's sourcing neon signs is getting it from China. Of course, we're going to build a brand around that. And so
Hmm.
we launched Neon Vibes. It didn't work out, but then we dropped those products on Canvas Freaks and we scaled that up to, numerous orders a day. And it's been pretty awesome, man.
That's so smart. Like it's just such a cool framework that I've never like anybody that I've talked to so far. They don't operate like this, so it's really interesting to me. Now, when it comes to creating a product, let's say like the pet shop,
Yeah.
how does that work? Like, was that like a custom thing that you had to do? Because that's not a
Yeah.
canvas, right? Or
No, not. I mean, we have a Canvas, option on the site, but it's really a
no?
wallet sized metal card. And so the whole idea is that, you can carry it with you, look at your pet whenever, and it's obviously supposed to hit that nostalgia. So for us, we just had to kind of reverse engineer that process. We just looked at, okay, I don't know if you've seen, it's like really popular for people to make like custom credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
We reverse engineered that process without like the magnet strip itself. All we needed was a flatbed printer. We needed we had 2 options. We could either source the cards from China in bulk, or we could get metal sheets here in the US and cut them with a router. So we've actually done both. But now we've just settled in sourcing those metal cards directly from China, and then we'll print them in house. What's
Mm.
cool is we made like custom jigs that allow us to print 360 cards in 10 minutes. So when it's like peak time, man, like in Q4, and we're getting 800 orders a day for that brand, we're able to knock out all the orders within like 30 minutes. And then it's just about packaging and shipping them. So it's
Wow.
like, it's just cool, man. It's cool being able to do it in house. You just save so much money, man.
So what do you
Yeah.
think about like more so do you think it's worthwhile for people to start looking into not manufacturing themselves, but at the very
Yeah.
least looking at more options for US suppliers? Is that something that you
Oh
think people
man,
are like
I have so many
undervaluing?
thoughts on this. That is such a great question. I think absolutely that people undervalue it. I think that everyone really goes with like the easiest route, right? What I mean by that is everyone's going to go use Printful, Printify because of all the automation that comes with it. But they don't realize that if they were to just Google, let's say, local print shops in their area, and just take a day to go visit 5 of them, you'll find these mom and pop shops that are willing to make you custom products that you could never imagine you'd have access to.
Wow.
And I mean, these custom products won't even exist online. Like these Printful, Printify, Custom Cat, Goo, and none of them are offering these things. And so you can work with those suppliers to create these custom products. You do the digital side. Once you create the files, you send it to them, and essentially you're drop shipping through them.
Wow.
And people just don't do it, man. And it blows my mind, right? Anyone that's in print on demand that understands custom, like gift giving, personalization, they need to do that. They absolutely need to do that.
Yeah, because even just me right now talking to you, like about I didn't know you manufactured these cards basically for a while. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking, wow, maybe I need to think about a brand idea with something like this and like work with you guys because that would be so cool. And
Dude,
people are not
we
doing
work
this.
with we work with so many different e-commerce players, and we'll like create custom products for them.
Right.
As long as they come to us with like a really unique idea that doesn't exist. And so we'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to manufacture it. And as long as they're like serious players and we know they can get some volume, it's worth our effort. It's worth the R&D. And we do that often. We do that for ourselves and for others, man. So yeah, definitely, man. You got the right idea.
Cool. So let me ask
Yeah.
you this then. So obviously this is a really eye-catching product. It meets like all the criterias for like a winner in my
Yeah.
opinion. But how did you guys launch it? Like how, because obviously launching a business isn't easy. And when you manufacture
Yeah,
something, it's like you're really kind of going all in on it in a way.
for sure.
So how would you launch something like this?
So for us, it was unique in the sense that we already had like this awesome internal marketing team, right, for Canvas Freaks. So the idea of running numerous brands,
Mm,
it was just like kind of second nature, right? Like we're not getting additional overhead. We don't have anything else that we're really risking. So for us, it was pretty easy. It was a matter of following that launch playbook of, okay, duplicate your Shopify store, find a theme that you like, get some creatives up, and keep it super simple. So like whenever we're launching, we're always going to keep everything really simple. Do like, I think it takes us like 3 days to launch a website at most. Once that's up and running, we'll just test some ads. We'll throw a budget of like $1,000 at most and just see what kind of clicks we're getting, what kind of feedback there is for this product. If it shows promise early on, that's when we double down and we'll like really build it out. We'll put up, UGCs, social proof, reviews, like everything you can imagine to, back end email funnels, SMS, all of that.
mm,
So we usually take that two-pronged process where it's like, okay, you create the product, do a simple launch with paid ads. If it's showing a break-even potential, that's when you really double down on it and you scale it up. So that's how we went about it. I think organic social for this brand in particular was super, super effective. We had a viral video on TikTok, I think, and you'll see we have like a few 100,000 followers and like on that page. And so we had a viral video happen that resulted in like 80,000 in organic revenue. And so at that point it was like, yeah, this is such a like obvious winner that we
right.
need to double down on.
It's
Yeah.
like the market just told you that it's a winning product, basically. And I think that's such a great thing to know, just how powerful organic can be, especially for something
Yeah.
that's eye catching and unique. So it kind of does pay off to go the extra mile. And like you said, in your case, the extra mile is just like spending 3 days and maybe
Yeah.
$1,000. So it's really not like that crazy of a investment in time commitment. But a lot of people, I think, still take that same approach that they'll spam test a million products, and I just feel like that's not gonna work as well if you don't have $100,000 to test,
Yeah.
because it's just not gonna
Yeah.
hit. It actually helps to put in a little more effort into each one. So for this or in general, what do you think right now is like the best platform? Do you think Meta, or are you guys doing TikTok too?
Yeah. So at peak, let's talk about like last Q4, for example. I like I said, we were scaling to, multiple hundreds of orders a day. I think our ad spend split was almost exactly 50-50.
Oh
Like
wow.
at peak, we were spending around $16,000 a day on TikTok, and it was roughly the same on Meta. And I think it speaks to what kind of product this is. Obviously, everyone understands that TikTok has like a younger demographic. The AOV for what you're selling on TikTok ideally should be a little lower. And so this falls like in that category. It checks all the boxes. And because of that, I think we found a lot of success on both TikTok and Meta. Whereas a brand like Canvas Freaks, where our AOV is 250, 300, I mean, we're almost exclusively on Meta and Google. Yeah.
That makes sense. And which one do you think gave you a higher return on ad spend back then, or was it kind of even?
It's so hard to say, man, because like we try to use like blended,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah.
When we look at everything. And so with TikTok, like you get such cheap impressions, right? Like so many people top of funnel get to learn about your product, what it is. And a lot of times, I mean, we see these direct sales coming through, and it's like, where are those coming from? Well, it's obvious, right? Like people will see you there, and then they'll remember you. Maybe they'll see a retargeting ad, and then there's a come directly to the website. And we attribute a lot of that to TikTok. So I feel like if you're just trying to build really high level top of funnel awareness, TikTok is a great place to go. But I don't think anything drives direct conversions the way Meta does. And that's at least what we believe.
Yeah, that I've found kind of the same thing, to be honest. I think that's why for me, like my big focus is just blending organic on TikTok with paid on Meta, and just like really pushing that as hard as possible, because that's the only way I've found so far this year to get like a super high return on ad spend at scale. Whereas if like I'm only doing Meta ads, it's really hard to get a high return on ad spend at scale. So that's super powerful. Now, I'm curious, how does your team look like? Like, how did you start building this team to be able to do this?
No
Like,
doubt.
how many team members do you have now?
So I guess like at first, I guess it would make sense to kind of break down how the company is structured, right?
Sure.
So we're A3 Ventures, which is like the hold co up top. We have two main arms to the business. One is home decor fulfillment, which is like the manufacturing company, fully separated business. And then we have A3 brands, which is like all of our e-commerce brands. And they're like structured within a single corporation. And so we have like this amazing e-commerce team at the helm of A3 brands. That team consists of a retention team, so email and SMS. We have a head of growth that manages mainly paid acquisition, right? Meta, TikTok, etc., but also leads the retention team. We have a creative team as well that is like only making performance ad content all the time. And so it's almost like an internal marketing agency that services our, portfolio of brands. And so they'll try to allocate time accordingly, like, 25% to this brand, 25% to this brand, or maybe they'll skew that time input depending on seasonality and whichever brand requires it. But that's how we structured like the e-commerce team. And so and I'll say this because as of last year, we pretty much had 16 people in that e-commerce team. Moving into this year, I mean, I think we like slowed down a bit. There was a lot of overhead that we had. We reevaluated. And so we actually cut that team in half. And now it's just 8 of like stone cold killers,
Yeah.
right? And they're amazing at what they do and they get like the job done. On the manufacturing side, again, it really varies because it depends on the time of the year, the seasonality. Right now, when it's slow, we probably have 40 full-time employees. But November, December, there's going to be like 100 people plus a day working double
Crazy.
shifts, like open from 7 a.m. to pretty much 11, 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. at night.
Wow. Well, that's impressive. And also, I'm just really curious about this. How you found this like business structure? Was it just naturally like just how
Yeah,
do you go from drop shipping to having a holding company with a manufacturing side,
no
and like
doubt, man.
like how did you find
It,
this business
in all
model?
honesty, bro, like it was a series of like constantly challenging ourselves, right? Like, dude, like if I told you what I knew about business when we started, next to nothing, like peanuts. People would ask me what I do, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a marketer," But like we were a business, we were so much more than that. So my framework for thinking about business really changed because I was a college dropout, And I decided to go back. And so I was like, I'm going to go back, finish undergrad. I finished undergrad while we were building all this.
Oh, cool.
And then my wife actually convinced me to get my MBA. And I'm really lucky because I live very close to like one of the best schools in the Southeast, Rollins Crummer. And so I went there to get my MBA, and I was surrounded by like VCs, people in private equity, people that are like thinking super high level about business, M&A, acquiring, selling businesses, things like that. And so as I like connected with these people, and I would see how like these, Fortune 500s would run, and these other companies that they're going to work for, it made me realize that like we have to level up. So around 2020 is when I did the restructure, and it was perfect timing because that's when COVID happened and e-commerce just scaled, right?
Right.
So I think up till 2020, we were only doing like 3 to 4 million a year in revenue. And since then we've like 5x, I guess. And so it was the perfect timing to have those learnings,
Wow.
implement them, restructure the company, and then do it while we were growing. So that's kind of, I want to say like for me, school isn't meant for everyone, but for me, it actually genuinely helped, man. The
Damn.
network, the people.
That's
Yeah.
a really well, actually, I wouldn't say uncommon, but it's just very popular to be like, fuck school, like, this is stupid, like,
Yeah.
blah, 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 it's a waste of time. And like, there's some truth to that. But in your case,
There is.
it actually helped you so much meeting these types of people. It's funny because I feel like in the last year for me I've been in kind of where you were back then in terms of like restructuring, or at least thinking bigger and learning about venture and learning about, like you said, like mergers and acquisitions and investors. And I've been learning a lot about that world as well. And that's why when you mention all this, I'm like, oh man, this like piques my interest a lot right now because it's relevant. Have you ever brought on investors, or are you thinking about that stuff or nah?
Yeah, so like we're bootstrapped, and so we've always like self-funded via retained earnings, profits, like reinvesting back into the business. We practically have like no debt, man. Like even all the machinery, everything that we own, all the raw material, like we bought it with just profits.
Crazy.
And so like we're in a position where it's like, man, we've been building this for a long time, and so when you get to that position, you start thinking about, okay, like it would be nice to relinquish some of this stress, right? Like we work so hard to build this enterprise value. Does it really matter if I were to sell 20% and take some money off the table? Because a lot of people, like, especially in e-commerce, they think the only way to make money is like the profits that they earn. But really, if you build a valuable business, that business has a value to it, right? And so whatever your brand is, maybe it's worth 100,000, maybe it's 500 or a few million. And the thing is, you don't have to exit the whole thing. You can sell 20% of it to someone that believes in you, that thinks you're going to continue growing and scaling. And you can structure it in a way where you take some of that money off the table and you keep some of that money in to reinvest it. And so like going back into like, what you're asking, like, yeah, I've definitely thought about it. I just don't think it's the right time for us. Given how the market has shifted, the cost of capital, interest rates are super high. I don't think that people are willing to invest at the valuations that they were willing to do a year ago, 2 years ago. So for me, and I think this goes for anyone that has a strong business, you should wait. Wait a year, 2 years, unless of course timing is of the essence. If you're in an industry that you have to gain market share, then you should go get that money no matter what it costs. But if you think your industry is here to stay, you're not in a rush, you can wait to get that investment.
That's wise.
And I think that's where we are. Yeah.
That's
I love
so
how
cool.
you structured everything, by the way, man. Like I see the way you've done like Akemi Labs, right? Like the way you've done your agency, and
Yeah,
dude, like it's incredible, man. Like
thanks,
I
bro.
don't see a lot of people that see the value in that, but when you build it that way, you can also sell off arms and pieces of your business without having to let go of the whole thing, and that's an amazing thing, bro.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I kind of had the same a similar thought process of like I want to. Well, actually, for me, it was a little different. I just really wanted to build my team. I had
Yeah.
like no team for a long time, basically, and I had like VAs and things like that, which
Right.
are great. Like I'm not to knock VAs or anything, but it's just not the same. Like you said, like 8 hungry like killers will do the job of like 100 VAs.
Yeah.
So
True.
that was me before, just a bunch of VAs, no real team. So then I kind of restructured everything, and it allowed me to really build a sick team. So now I'm in that process. But let me ask you this now, because I'm sure the last 10 minutes here have been pretty irrelevant for a lot of people in my audience, since they're
Yeah.
literally just testing dropshipping products right now. But I'm just so curious, so I can't help it. And I'm sure it'll help some people either way. But let me ask you this. If you had to start from complete zero right now, like just from literal zero,
Damn.
what would be your approach?
That's a great question, and one that I've actually thought about. I have people, DM me this question often, and I
Mm-hmm.
have a great answer for it. I think that the lowest hanging fruit in e-commerce is print on demand, specifically through Etsy. Etsy has such a
Mm-hmm.
killer platform, man. And like there's probably like tens of millions, if not maybe hundreds of millions of people that use that
Mm-hmm.
platform, right? And so if you're able to create awesome products by using, let's just say like VAs or freelancers, you're paying $5 for a t-shirt design for a niche that you think would be very profitable. So let's go ahead and reverse engineer it. Let's say you really like uh, basketball, right? So what you're going to do is you go on Etsy, you search for basketball t-shirts or hoodies, find the top selling ones, create a list of like 100. Take that list, send it to a freelancer on Upwork or at Fiverr. Have them recreate those designs in with a spin-off.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get those 100, let's say you pay $5 to $10 per design, you take all of that and then you take it back and you throw it onto Etsy via Printful, Printify, any one of the print on demand apps. Now you have 100 different SKUs. You take your time doing the keyword research, making sure that people can discover these products. If you're really tight on funds, you don't even need to put a marketing budget. If you have some money, you can put $10, $15, $20 a day. And with Etsy, you're not paying for views, you're paying for clicks specifically. And so, I think that is single-handedly the easiest
Wow.
way to scale up e-commerce without having to learn how to build a website, how to do paid advertising, all of these things which are very difficult and advanced for beginners.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my answer for sure, man.
That's a good one. I mean, no, I don't talk enough about Etsy, but I totally see Etsy as like a massive platform with a lot of potential for people. I mean, it kind of the culture of Etsy is like small businesses, anyways.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what people are there to do is support small businesses. So if you're a beginner, it actually does make a lot of sense to start there, especially with print on demand. So when it comes to your canvases and things that you guys manufacture, do you guys have like a minimum quantity or minimum type of requirement, I guess, for people to work with?
Yeah. So for us specifically, because like, Printful, Printify, and all of them, they make it so easy to just jump on the platform, upload a design, and be able to like go on your way. Um, we find it very difficult to compete with them.
Yeah.
So one thing that we specialize in is customer service, number one, because we're not automated. Like we have like a human at the door ready to service all of your needs. And then number two is pricing. So all these other platforms, because of their automations, investors, they have to price like way higher than what it actually costs to make these products. So we get to come in and we get to pretty much beat them across the board on pricing. So what that means, like when you take that customer service component, the pricing, we work exclusively with people that are really doing high volumes already.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll connect with them. Let's say there's a brand on Shopify that's selling 50 canvas prints a day. We'll go up to them and we'll take over 100% of their volume, do everything from our warehouse, give them prices to a point where they're saving like $1,000 a day on
Right.
cost of goods. And so it benefits them huge. They have an account rep that they can speak to every single day regarding any orders, any problems, and usually they'll just connect their teams with our customer service and they're on their way. So yeah, usually we do work with clients that are already getting at least a handful of orders already in canvas prints, acrylic prints, neon signs, embroidery, things like that.
Wow. So that's kind of the perfect scaling system then, because it's kind of like the way I see it, at least in the dropshipping world, it's, you're testing a product, let's say on AliExpress, and then you cut out AliExpress and you just literally talk to a agent and they cut your
Yep,
prices, but you need to be doing like 50 orders a day to get to that
of
point.
course.
But you actually end up scaling more profitably, which allows you to scale even more. So in the Canvas world, that would be perfect. If you could start with Printful, let's say zero risk. It is
Right.
more expensive, so that kind of sucks. It's going to be hard to scale. But once you get proof of concept, then you transition into something like with what you're doing at your company and cut your prices so that you can scale and get probably a higher quality service too.
And I actually recommend exactly what you're saying. Like, if someone's starting off, like, you don't particularly have to go for like the lowest price supplier that you can find. At that point, it's not so necessary for you to put so much energy and effort into that. It's better to just try to prove concept even at break even. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay if you're not making any money, because you know that if you're even able to scale it at break even, you're able to go ahead and negotiate once you get the volume, get the prices down, and then you're able to make that, profit or take it home, whichever way. So I actually stand by that as well, man.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like what Elon is doing with Tesla. Like he keeps cutting prices down as like they're able to cut the prices of manufacturing.
Right.
I'm like, wow, that is actually insane because that's only going to compound and snowball. Like people are seeing that, so they're like, wow, cars are getting cheaper. Whereas like with inflation, every other car company is doing the complete opposite. Like they're
Complete
getting more
opposite.
expensive. So it's
And one
like,
thing,
damn.
like in manufacturing, that people don't understand right on the outside is that, we have a lot of overhead. Like, to pay for that warehouse, for example, we're spending $40,000 a month, man, on rent. And so, like, if there's not a certain volume of orders that's coming in every single month, we're losing money.
Right.
And so it's the same thing with like Tesla's gigafactories. Like, they have to make sure that production is ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the best ways to do that is to increase demand by cutting your prices, of course. So they would rather be busier, have their hands full with more volume and get less revenue per car that they sell. And it makes sense. Like, it's totally viable. So I fully understand why he's doing it.
Wow. No,
Dude's on
that's so cool.
another dimension,
Yeah,
though.
he's literally on a
Obviously.
whole other level.
Yeah.
Like that's gonna be $1 trillion company, or it already kind of is.
Insane.
But
It is, I think, right? Yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy, man.
wow. So can I ask you this then, just as a personal question? It's
Sure.
you have a lot of things on your plate. What does your day to day usually look like? Like, what's your routine like?
Yeah, and I think at this point, like, I think I give the most value with coming up with like ideas for the brands, the new products that we launch.
Mm-hmm.
So me and one of my co-founders, Adid, we really work a lot more on the e-commerce side of the business. And
Mm-hmm.
so coming up with like high level advertising strategies, new products, planning for Q4, like we've already finished our planning last month, and we know
Wow.
exactly how we're gonna tackle Q4, November, December, all the way through. So I think like day to day wise, man, more than anything, we're just working with team members, like each different department. So I'm spending time with, our marketing department. I'm spending time with product development. I'm spending time with, management just in general, making sure that they're looking at everything correctly. P&Ls, super, super important for each brand, looking at making sure that, they're profitable day in and day out. And if they're not, making sure we're cutting costs, overhead. And so that really is it more than anything, man. It's making sure you're there for your team and that you can help them succeed, because I genuinely think that as an entrepreneur, like, that's your number one role. Once you've built a large enough company, it's just to empower everyone around you to do incredible work. The best way you can do that is by showing them that, hey, you work for them.
Right.
You're here to support them in any way and help them scale up. So yeah,
That's
that's the
powerful.
day to day.
That's really, really powerful. Do you ever think in the future you'll hire like a CEO in your place, or do you like what's the future look like for you? Do you think?
For sure. That is a great question. And so one thing I'll say that we've been struggling with, right? And I like being transparent, is launching like new brands. I feel like, you think the longer you do it, the better you get at it. And you do, like, what boxes to check, what mistakes not to make. But e-commerce is, it's competitive, man, and
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. Paid acquisition costs have gone up so much that I think launching completely new brands for us has gotten harder and harder. And it's gotten to a point where we're like, hey, well, we have all this capital. Why do we need to build our e-commerce division by just launching new things that 9 times out of 10 are going to fail? Instead, the predictable way to grow is to acquire companies. And so for us, I think these next few years, the obvious play has to be to buy companies that we can plug into our ecosystem. So ideally, if there was a canvas, art company, a neon sign company that's doing $2, $3, $4 million in revenue that has solid profits, instead of me trying to create a new brand and replicate that success, it makes more sense for me to go and buy them for 3 times their earnings and then just plug them into our ecosystem where we manage that company, grow that company, and scale it. So that's what I think the next few years looks like. I think at some point we're going to have to hire, like, probably not CEOs for our brands, but brand managers, essentially, people that are going to be fully responsible for each individual brand, as long as the brand is doing a certain amount of revenue and profits where it makes sense to do so.
Right.
And on the flip side, for manufacturing, I think technology is going to be our big play. We're currently building out like our own app, like Printful, Printify. And so the way we choose to differentiate ourselves is going to be different products. We don't plan to offer the same products that everyone has. Super customized wall decor that pretty much no other, POD company is providing. So between those two, hopefully the next 3 years look really good, but who's to say it will? But we'll see.
Well, I mean, that sounds great. I think you have a huge competitive advantage in that, and obviously you're here right now, so we're going to be reaching more and more people that are building e-commerce businesses. Yep. And like that may think about a potential product and come to you. So like, I think that's a really smart move. I kind of want to get into the same thing of just eventually acquiring some brands. Right now I'm in like
totally
cash flow season. I'm trying to like just build and grind, and then eventually like just build up enough capital to where I can just like start buying a company that I think we could improve, just like what you're saying with your team. Like, think about what my strengths are and just partner with people, and acquire their businesses or start businesses with partners. That's another thing I'm trying to do, is like find some manufacturers, kind of like what you're doing, like not exactly canvases, but that actually, again, that kind of gives me a lot of ideas. But yeah, like partnering with the right people to start brands with them, it kind of reduces the risk for everybody. And it's just kind of
I was going to say, like, if you're launching new brands, the only time I've been able to have predictable success when it comes to launching new companies, and it makes me upset that more people don't do this, is partner with an influencer, partner with someone with an audience that has, like, an example being like one of my friends, she's a mommy blogger in Orlando. She has like 500,000, followers on IG, like 1.5 on YouTube. We launched a fitness brand together. And the reason we did that was her journey as a mom to get back to being fit after having a kid, right? And so, like, dude, $2 million in revenue with $0 in ad spend.
Wow.
That year. Like, just guaranteed success. And then we did it again with somebody else. And it's like, if somebody has an audience, but you have the e-commerce knowledge, dude, just connect the two. Either that, or like you were saying, like, to eventually look at investors, you have all the e-commerce knowledge in the world. You know how to like scale companies. You have an awesome agency that's capable of it. Find that investor that has the money, that's willing to buy the company for you, and you're still taking like 50% of that because you're the operator. And so, like, that's another way to do it. And you can, like, I don't know, it's cool because you have so many resources.
Yeah,
and I can see you taking one of these avenues to just crush it, man.
That sounds smart. I actually never even thought about that, but I know people, there's other ways to acquire business besides you literally putting in the money for it, like you're saying. This is just what's so cool about entrepreneurship, is like hopefully it's exciting for my audience to hear these things, even if they're just starting, because like you and I mean, you started in 2015, I started in like 2017, and I can kind of see that 2-year delay in terms of like what you know and what I know. So just hopefully that's like, it gives people hope in the future that as long as they stick to the grind and the journey, they'll get to that place that they want to get to.
For sure. Every day, like, we're leveling up, and it's so humbling, man, because I feel like the better you get at it, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know anything. Right. You're going to put yourself in a room with someone that's doing 5 times what you're doing. You're like, damn, how can I even toot my own horn when this person's so far ahead? And it's
Right.
not like a gratefulness thing. It's like you're still grateful, you're still humble, but it just like shows you that you have so much more to learn. And I love that, man. I love that about entrepreneurship.
So true. And I do notice like it is like a time thing too. Like age really isn't the reason why someone's successful or anything. It's just time spent. Like for example, I learned
Yeah,
about this guy that was like he reached like 100 million a year, and he's like 32. So I was like, what the hell? That's
crazy,
crazy. I'm like, how did
crazy.
he do it? But he said he started his first business at like 12. So this is his 20th
That's
year in
nuts,
business.
man.
So I'm like,
Nuts.
damn, okay, so like once I'm 20 years deep, maybe I'll be there too, you know?
And honestly, dude, like it's never too late. And I say that because I'm probably older than most of your audience. I turned 31 this year. And like I was still a college dropout at 23. That's when I first stepped into e-commerce, was like 23, 24. Before that, I was a waiter, man, and I was making
Wow.
like $9 an hour, like it's really never too late. There's no timeline to it, but it's like you said, it's you know, whenever you start from that point on, just every single day, your goal is to make yourself 1% better. Dude, 10 years from now, you'll be unrecognizable. And,
I
and
love
that's the
that.
game.
That's amazing, man. So my next question, we'll try to wrap this up soon here,
Cool.
but I'm curious, what is when it comes to networking, do you put any emphasis on that, or do you just work on the business and like just let people kind of find it? How much value do you
For
place
sure.
on networking?
Yeah, I actually like it's funny because me and my co-founders were so different. And I think that's a beautiful thing, right? Because we bring different things to the business. I
True.
am that person that will network as much as I can. And it's really cool because like you never see the immediate benefit of networking usually, but it comes in like waves. So
Hmm.
for example, I'll go out of my way to meet as many people as I can. Example, getting on this podcast, getting to meet you, and maybe nothing happens today, maybe nothing happens tomorrow, but year, 2, 3 years down the line, you might send me a friend that's looking to sell their business and they're the perfect acquisition for me. You might have someone in your network that's an incredible person that's looking for an opportunity to work. And like we have this, vacant spot that we need someone in, that has that skill set. And so like the way that networking finds its way like around and helps out, it's incredible, man. And I think like I'm fairly consistent with saying that it's so worth your time and effort. I know other like venture capitalists and people that are like super high level, they'll say like to be really wary of doing too much networking. And they're right.
Hmm.
Like, you have to make sure you're doing a lot of deep work too.
Yeah.
Some people, all they're doing is showing their face, going to places, but like they're not doing anything. So like having a good balance is super important. My co-founder, on the other hand, like never networks. He's like a ghost online, but he's
Hmm.
one of like the most incredible e-commerce minds that I've ever met. And so, but luckily he has me, and so we like balance
Right.
each other out, so
How
it's
did you
cool, man.
guys
It's
find each
totally worth
other?
it. We've honestly been best friends since middle school.
Oh wow.
And so yeah, we just like were doing nothing together till like 23, 24. And then when we had that, there was like this person in our community, he was like a little bit older. We played basketball with him and stuff. He was the one that was like our third co-founder.
Mm.
And he was the one that sold a, Game of Thrones t-shirt online, made it successful. I actually asked him for an office job, just like, something $10 an hour back then. And he was like, hey, help me out with this e-commerce thing because I made a ton of money doing it. And so we kind of just started working with him. We were like his VAs almost.
Yeah.
And then, we proved ourselves to be so valuable that we became like 33% partners across the board.
Wow.
And so that's kind of how it like came to fruition. Yeah.
That's so cool. I mean, I agree. I think you said a really good point that you and your partner like are different and how beautiful that is. I think that's like one of the most powerful things ever is you if you can find somebody that can complement your skill set and you can build a good partnership or a good relationship. Oh man, like that's awesome. That's the best.
As long as you guys have like similar values at core, like your
Right.
like integrity, knowing that you can trust this person in general, like as long as you guys have those same values, everything else like is totally is going to add up. And I think a lot of people are wary of partnerships because they get screwed and things like that. And my takeaway from that is just like it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like there is no doubt it's gonna happen. And if it happens, you just have to make sure you have that state of mind where it's like, well, I can live with myself because I'm the one that's like doing things the right way. We've gotten screwed so many times, man, with different business deals and things like that. And it's like you just don't let it push you down, man. You just
Yeah.
move on and do the next thing.
True. I guess you would rather it like happen sooner than later too, you know?
Yeah.
Probably better to get screwed sooner than later when the
Straight up.
stakes are higher.
I say the same thing about like friends that might get cheated on or something. I'm like, it's better it happened now, before you married this person,
True.
before you made a life with them. So it's yeah, totally right, man.
Wow. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I mean, I'm obviously gonna I even have somebody actually in my community that has a sick Canvas store that I used to help a
That's
long
awesome,
time
man.
ago. So I'm like, whoa, this could be a good,
Love to
potential
talk to them, man.
opportunity. But yeah, man. So I really appreciate you. Where can people find you? Where do you want people
Yeah.
to look you up at?
Best place would be Instagram. I respond to all my DMs. So DTC Ahmed, that's my handle. Definitely thinking about starting like a newsletter at some point, specifically on print on demand, because that's what
Mm,
like my career has been built on, how to create custom products and things like that. So yeah, I mean, Instagram's the place to go. And I just wanted to
sweet.
say, man, like I love everything you're doing for the community, man. Like genuinely, dude, like finding someone like you is the exact reason that like we were successful in e-commerce back in 2017, learning from like the people that are willing to give back. And
Mm.
I don't know if people tell you that enough, man, but I
Thanks,
appreciate what
bro.
you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Appreciate that, man. That's good to hear. Really appreciate that. But yeah, we'll have to connect again. Maybe do a part two in like 6 months. I love doing that with
No doubt,
people.
man.
It's always fun to see like how
I'd,
things have
I'd love that,
changed.
man.
Oh
Whether
yeah,
things go north or south, I'm happy to share transparently, man. If it
sweet.
went south, it probably have a ton of learnings to share, so
Exactly.
I'd be so down for that, man.
Awesome, bro. All right. Well, thanks
Cool.
everybody, and thanks again,
Talk soon.
Ahmed. We'll talk
Bye.
soon.